The history of the Methodist Church in Kenya is deeply rooted in the deed of ordination, which decrees that the church grew out of the United Methodist Free Churches of the United Kingdom, whose missionary committee in 1860 agreed to send missionaries to East Africa, the first missionaries reaching Mombasa in 1862. The United Methodist Free Churches became part of the United Methodist in 1907, which later formed the Methodist Church in 1932. In the year 1967, the Methodist Church in Kenya became autonomous from the British Methodist Church. Over the recent past, the Methodist Church in Kenya was embroiled in leadership wrangles, which intensified around August 2022 when the immediate former presiding bishop extended his term of office beyond the limit stipulated within the church constitution.
Good governance is an issue. In fact, in the last 2 years, before this year, the church was in turmoil, and there is need for reform in the church. Reform which would address the stationing of ministers properly, the powers of the presiding bishop vis-a-vis other organs of the church, the human resource policies and institutions to govern the church. Devolution itself, because people at the coast, for instance, feel they were marginalized in the Methodist Church because every presiding bishop since 1970 has come from Meru. And I think, honestly, that time for devolution for the church has come. The Methodist Church of Kenya has a constitution. The constitution is called the Deed of Church Order. It was made in 1967. Clause 15 of the Deed of Church Order regulates how amendments to the Constitution can be made. It provides that any proposed amendments must first be passed by the conference of the church with a vote of 3/4 of the members present and voting. Once that happens, the proposal is then taken to the synods of the church for deliberation. Once the synods approve it, it comes back to the conference once again. And if passed by a vote of 3/4 of the members present and voting, those amendments are approved. In the particular case before us, the Standing Committee of the Church established a subcommittee comprising of the Reverend Dr. Alawi Imadhiu, the Reverend Professor Sabroni Zambori, and the Reverend Dr. Stephen Kanyaru, 3 former presiding bishops. The subcommittee also included the Reverend Professor Bishop Ataya, who is the current Vice Chancellor of the Methodist University. It also included Professor Sheila Rianga, Dr. Grandis Mweti, and myself, Arun Ringera. We were tasked to come up with the proposals of improving governance in the church. So the document which is now due for deliberation was originated by that team, and it was approved by the conference last year with the necessary majority. It is called Draft Zero.
This led to a massive gathering on the 29th of March 2023 by Methodist Church members consisting of both clergy and laity, with a representation from all synods who converged at the church headquarters.
I was one of the 7 appointed by the conference to begin the whole process of examining our structures. And so we are the ones who came up with a zero draft and then launched it out to the church to look at and do the editing. One of the things that are new in the Constitution is the need for devolution. So removing the central governance of the church from being an apex, where you have one person that does all the guidance of the resources and the human resource I mentioned. We need human resource department. We need a legal department at all levels, from synod up to the headquarters. I read a 2002 research that indicated that 80% of churches in the West do not have trained theologians. Then they looked at the global south and found 70% do not have anything more than a diploma in theology. Now, the other day, I spoke to ministers, all our ministers, over 400 of them. I asked how many of you have more than a diploma, and it was 100%. So it means you have a wonderful human resource. Now, if that is not captured in our constitution, in terms of how do you deploy them, what are the qualifications, who becomes a bishop, how long do they serve, and so on and so forth. And so devolution is going to ensure that people are engaged closer home, and then we can have rotational bishops, because one of the things that has been abused a lot in our standing orders is where someone can come as an individual and write their own constitution. So those are some of the reasons why I think we need a new constitution to be able to harness the stewardship of our resources. I didn't mention, for example, that we are one of the few churches with land, with institutions. And again, the standing orders need to capture how we take care of those institutions. The church has grown and it is growing. And so the need for devolution, just like Kenya went into counties.
As a result of the constitutional crisis that was allegedly caused by the immediate former presiding bishop, they installed a connectional transition ad hoc committee to run the affairs of the church temporarily. They also unanimously declared that the term of office of the former Embaton presiding bishop had expired and was no longer fit to hold office.
My name is Kobia Michobo. I'm the chairman of the MCK Constitution Review Connectional Steering Committee. This is a committee whose mandate is to oversee the review process of the church constitution. And basically, it's collecting of members' views and collecting them into the document that was approved by the annual conference last year, so that in the upcoming annual conference, there is a document with the members' views for discussion and ratification as it may be necessary. The last time a review on this document was done is 1991. Those are 33 years ago. So it means that there are a lot of gaps that have come up from that time up to now that needs to be addressed. In many jurisdictions, constitutions are reviewed after a period of 10 years. And a good example is the Kenyan Constitution, which was promulgated in 2010. The second reason is there previously have been attempts to edit the standing orders of the church. And many times they have been inconsistent. The edits have been inconsistent with the Constitution because it has not been updated. So it is good to align the standing orders so that there is congruence in all the documents of the church and the governing instruments, so that we don't have provisions in the standing orders that are unconstitutional. The best constitutions worldwide are made during the time of crisis. As you remember, last year there was a crisis in the church, especially on the issue of leadership transition. And our constitution was not able to address certain things. So we almost fell into a constitutional crisis because we didn't have adequate provisions in the constitution. So that is another very important area, which makes it very necessary for the constitution to be amended this time.
Ni kitu kimoja tu ambacho hakigeuki, ni Mungu peke yake. Unaangalia unavyoendelea kukua, mengine unakumbuka yaliyopita, unaona ulikuwa ukiamini sivyo, then unaacha hayo, unachukua mengine mazuri kila wakati, na yale ambayo tunaona yageuzwe kwa njia nzuri, bora asigeuzwe kwa watu kupenda mambo yao wenyewe. Kwa hiyo huwezi kuitia Mungu mfukoni mwako na useme ndivyo Mungu alivyo. Hapana. Mungu ni mwema, kila wakati anatufundisha njia zake, and vile utakavyokuwa as you grow, kama unavyoendelea kama mziamini, you are seeing a lot of good in God.
The conference standing committee later met on 5th of April 2023 and elected an acting presiding bishop, Reverend Isaiah Ndeye, pending the election of a substantive presiding bishop.
The documents we have right now have carried us for that long, since 1967, and it has carried us all through up to now. We need to update and upgrade whatever we have. Let me say something here. Throughout the world, the Methodist Church has gone regional. So it is something that we should not fear. It's only Kenya that we are still a one region church. But come to Africa, West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Britain, America, they are all talking of regions. That is a time when we move closer to people in mission and evangelism. A region will come up with strategies and means on how they can reach the unreached within their reach. The world now has become a global village, and we need also to match to that so that we can be realized as a church of the 21st and 22nd century, not a church of 19th century.
On his election, Reverend Isaiah Ndeye convened his first conference standing committee meeting on 19th April 2023 to address a number of critical matters facing the church at a time when it was badly divided with several functions in no synod. The conference standing committee agreed to form a unity and reconciliation committee that was mandated to move in every part of the country to listen, reconcile, and mediate among members and church leaders. Upon completion, they realized that the church had some critical issues that needed to be addressed, key among them being dispute resolution, leadership and governance, election of church trustees, property and finance, investment and management of church institutions, stationing of ministers, top leadership transition procedures, implementation of resolutions, limitation on frequency of constitution amendments, historical issues and marginalization, election of delegates to the conference and representation of both clergy and the laity into the conference. After keenly reflecting on all these issues, they strongly recommended for a review of the church constitution and main proposal in form of zero draft, which was presented to the conference standing committee on 1st of July 2023 and was accepted, adopted and forwarded for discussion by the 58th annual conference of July 2023, which later took a vote adopting the zero draft document and approved its circulation to the local societies, circuits and synods for scrutiny, discussion, improvement, correction, ownership and transition to the conference for inclusion by August 2024 before the final ratification by the 59th annual conference.
Well, it's a good process and I'm supporting it, but we need it emotionally because we're under a very serious problem. Without, there's nothing to end here. You see in John 8 that the truth says the truth will set you free. And we have to be free when we are talking. There was a serious problem with the former leader. So people came missionary and they thought the Katiba, our constitution is not right. There's nothing wrong with our constitution. Even our standing orders. It's only that the person hijacked it. But since people proposed to change it, I would advise we change, but we should not be emotion. And there's no one person who can make a decision. No. It's members, both ministers and lay people. Of course, in every circuit, there's a superintendent minister who chairs the meeting. When it goes to the synod, the bishop is the one who sits on the chair and making decisions. Allow members and the other ministers to make a decision. I know some have said no. Even those who have said no, listen to them and ask why. Why are you saying no? Let us hear. Even if someone is talking not important or irrelevant, listen. He might be saying something important.
One of the things that I would truly encourage is for Methodist Christians to have honest conversations about the review process, to accommodate each other in our diverse opinions on what various members and groups advocate for. And my prayer is that at the end of the day, we will have a consensus building process that will finally birth for us a constitution that would create posterity for this church going forward.
New clauses like human resource development and policies that would govern the human resource management within the church are introduced, as well as property and finance policies for effective management of church resources. The document also highlights key areas like transitional provisions that ensure the existing synods and circuits are retained. According to the Unity and Reconciliation Committee members who drafted the document, they assure the church that it does not abolish anything, but seeks to build a new church and fill the gaps that have led to conflict and wrangles in the past, urging the members to actively go through the document and familiarize with it.
The Methodist Church in Kenya is a very participative church. They have equal representation in all the organs of the church. Every member who belongs to a congregation has a chance to input their views on proposed reforms, which views then go to the circuit. Member participation, member involvement is key to governance in the Methodist Church. And that is what has been happening since August last year.
First of all, I'm so excited that for the first time, Methodists are reading their constitution or their standing order. Some people have never touched the document. Read it for yourself and engage in a positive way, and will grow the church, because you have a great church. This document does not belong to somebody. It's not supposed to lift somebody as a leader. This document is for the wellness of the church.
It is always said that the opportunities knock once. We don't know when we'll have an opportunity of this kind again in the future. As you can see already, we have taken that 3 years from the time it was amended. So this is a good opportunity for members to bring their hands together and come out with a document that can address the issues of the 21st century. Because things are changing very fast. We cannot live with a document of 1967 in 2024.
I would appeal to all leaders to make this process an all-inclusive process where everybody is going to be as much involved as possible to accommodate the very different and diverse opinions of the members and leaders, so that at the end of it, we are going to have an inclusive process that is going to be members-driven. And at the end of the day, I believe this document is going to be owned by the membership and the church in general, because it is going to serve the next generations for posterity.
I would advise to those who are saying no to ask themselves, why are they saying no? And if the majority say yes, then join them. Because to be left there only making noise and all that, and that's terrible. We need to join together and see where I can make it better. If there is something wrong that they think is not right, then we can be able to work together and make a better document for our church.
Wamethodisti hawana shida.
Okay.
Wataiangalia kwa njia nzuri na wataangalia waiangalie ilivyo. Watasema.
Let us be sober and be calm. Let us not have personal interests into the documents. Let us contribute as Christians, people who love this church, the church that is to serve the coming generations.
The former presiding bishops and current leadership of the church, led by the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church in Kenya, Reverend Isaiah Ndeye, all in one voice beseeched the members to participate positively in the entire process, as there is a need at this particular point in time to review and reflect on the deed of the church order, which has been guiding the church since 1967.